Imagine you are this stick man. You don't have a phone, you don't have a map, you don't have a road, you don't even have a house. It is 50,000 years ago. The sun is going down. Behind you is a forest you don't trust. In front of you is a river you don't know how to cross. The temperature is dropping. Where do you go? Pause the video. Think about it for a second. If you go to the high ground, you can see your enemies coming, but you'll freeze. If you go to the cave, you'll stay warm, but something might already be living in there. If you stay near the river, you have water, but so do the predators. This decision, the one our stickman is making right now, is the most important decision any human has ever made, because every city you've ever heard of, every country on the map, every border that exists today, every war ever fought, all of it traces back to a stickman just like this one, standing in a field 50,000 years ago, choosing where to spend the night. This is what ancient humans did with geography, and once you understand it, you understand everything. The first rule: water. For 99% of human history, the most important thing on Earth was not gold. It was not land. It was not power. It was fresh water. Humans cannot survive more than 3 days without it. So every single ancient civilization, without exception, began on a river. The Egyptians built on the Nile, the Mesopotamians on the Tigris and the Euphrates, the Indus Valley Civilization on the Indus River, ancient China on the Yellow River, the Aztecs on a lake. The Inca followed glacier-fed mountain streams. Look at any ancient city you can name. Now look at where it was built. There will be a river there. There is no exception. But here's where it gets interesting. Ancient humans did not just want water. They wanted water that flooded predictably. The Nile flooded every single year at the same time. It deposited rich black soil along its banks. Egyptians could plant crops in that soil and feed an entire civilization without trying very hard. Compare that to a river that floods randomly and destroys your city, which is what happened to dozens of ancient settlements that picked the wrong river. The civilizations we still talk about today picked rivers that behaved predictably. The ones that picked badly are buried under mud and forgotten. That's not luck. That's geography choosing winners and losers. The second rule: barriers. Once ancient humans had water, they needed something else. Walls, not the kind you build, the kind the planet builds for you. A civilization completely exposed to attack on all sides was a civilization that didn't last long. So, the smartest ancient humans built behind something that protected them naturally. India sits behind the Himalayas, the tallest mountain range on Earth. For thousands of years, no army from the north could cross those mountains in serious numbers. India developed its own languages, religions, dynasties, all because of one mountain range. Egypt had the Mediterranean to the north and the Sahara Desert to the south and west, the Nile in the middle. It was essentially an island made of sand and water. Egyptian civilization lasted 3,000 years partly because nobody could realistically attack it for most of that time. Greece's mountains and islands. Each city-state grew up in its own little valley, separated from the others by terrain you couldn't easily march an army across. That's why ancient Greece had Athens, Sparta, Thebes, Corinth, all completely different cultures. The geography forced them apart. Britain is an island. The English Channel kept invaders out for nearly 1,000 years after the Romans left. The last successful invasion was in 1066, almost a millennium of protection, provided entirely by 21 miles of cold water. This is the second rule. Ancient humans didn't fight nature, they hid behind it. The third rule: trade routes. Once you had water and you had walls, the third question became, how do you get rich? The answer was always the same. You positioned yourself on the path between two other civilizations. Constantinople, modern-day Istanbul, sits on the only narrow strait connecting Europe to Asia by water. Every ship moving between the Mediterranean and the Black Sea had to pass through it. The city was rich for over 1,000 years for one reason. Geography put it on the choke point. Venice was built on a swamp. Nobody wanted that land, but it sat at the perfect midpoint between Europe and the trade routes coming from the east. By the 1300s, it was one of the richest cities in the world, built on mud, made wealthy by maps. The Strait of Malacca between modern Malaysia and Indonesia controlled all sea trade between China, India, and the Middle East. Whoever controlled that strait controlled a third of the world's commerce. Ancient kingdoms rose and fell over a strip of water 1.7 miles wide. Ancient humans figured out something that took modern economists centuries to write down. The wealth of a place is not about what's on the land, it's about what passes through it. The fourth rule: bury your capital. Here's a rule you don't think about until you see it on a map. Ancient civilizations almost always put their most important city inland. Not on the coast, not on the border, in the middle. Rome is not on the coast. It's 15 miles inland on the Tiber, close enough to access the sea, far enough that no enemy navy could shell it. Beijing is hundreds of miles from any coast. Madrid sits in the dead center of Spain, surrounded by a circle of mountains, the most defensible spot on the entire peninsula. Ancient humans understood something governments still understand today. If your capital is on the coast, you can lose it in a single day. If it's inland, An enemy has to fight through your entire country to reach it. This is why Naypyidaw exists. This is why ancient Chinese emperors moved their capitals north when threats came from the sea. Geography didn't just shape where humans lived, it shaped what they protected first. Bring back the original stickman from the opening. He is now standing in the middle of a fully drawn city. The stickman from the beginning of this video made a decision. He chose the river. He chose the high ground above it. He chose the spot where two valleys met. He didn't know it at the time, but the city of Damascus would eventually grow on that exact location and stand for over 11,000 years. He didn't plan that. He just survived the night. That's the truth about ancient humans and geography. They weren't strategists. They weren't visionaries. They were stickmen in a field, picking the spot that wouldn't kill them. And we built every empire, every road, every border on Earth on top of those choices. Look at any modern city on the map. Now zoom out. You'll see it. The river, the mountain, the harbor, the pass. The stickman made that choice. We just inherited it. Subscribe. We'll see you for the next one.